Good evening, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Miss Fierce, the Fierce Trade House. So welcome. And this recording for today, what I want to do is basically show you guys how I do. This is like maybe a beginner's guide on market structure, understanding market structure. So I'm really going to try and keep this short and sweet and clear. I'm going to do a top-down analysis. And we're looking at this right now, Euro NZD. Why? Because this is one of the trades that I called out in my signals group today. As you can see, this is just my chart. There's nothing else except this. And so far, Euro NZD, we're at 49 pips. And you can see I call this trade about 4:20 p.m. New York session, thereabouts. And you can see we have literally almost no drawdown. The trade executed at 4:28 and just started pushing up. And I can confirm that in my signals group. You can see this is my signals group. This is today. And this was the final trade that I called out. You can see the entry price, 1.68635. And this is where we are at. And then wait a minute. 1.68635. 68, okay. 635 is about there. That's where I called it. Okay, 636 now. And that was a buy stop. 10 TP1 was 10 pips, TP2, so obviously we've done 10 pips already. TP2 was 20 pips away from the entry, and then TP3 is 59 pips. So we are not yet at TP3, but we are almost there. We are still making for it, making our way towards it, the correct English. So that being said, what I want to do is show you guys why I called out this trade at that time, and by just showing you how I analyze the market top down using market structure purely, not really using anything else. So I usually start my chart, my analysis basically from the weekly time frame. So I'm just gonna scoot there, and my internet is taking its sweet time. Hello. There we go. And we can see what has been happening on the weekly. So technically, let me just delete this so that we can see this a bit better. So technically on the weekly time frame, okay, just very quickly, we can see what's been happening with Euro NZD. Euro NZD since the, what is this, 16th of October 2017, this has been a key level. You can see that price keeps on coming. And just basically for a while, this zone here where we are seeing price keeps on repeating, bouncing off, is actually a very, very strong support zone. Okay. And talking about it from a retail perspective, support and resistance, which is the highs and the lows. So we are seeing equal lows here. So usually I say that anytime you see equal lows and equal highs, those are potential zones of liquidity. And usually price will tend to be attracted to those levels. So we can see, equal lows here, and we can see price has just been bouncing off this level. It's actually been unable to break through to the downside since 2017. So for starters, we know that once price got to this zone around March this year and failed to break to the downside, we know that Euro NZD has been bullish. Of course, in August, beginning of August, we then began to see the price of Euro NZD pushing down on the weekly time frame. But once we got to beginning of September, price then found its base again, okay, failed to break through and began to push up. So my assumption right now is that price is trying to push up, and it may want to take out these equal highs up here, because this is a zone of liquidity. I'm bullish on Euro NZD just by that fact that we have been unable to break structure for a couple of years, And now we're just repeating what usually happens the last couple of years, just bouncing off that zone and pushing up. So on the weekly, we are bullish. On the daily, then I'll go to the daily time frame. We are still bullish on the daily time frame. We've been in a zone as well. Sometimes people like to draw the zone so that you can identify them a bit more easier, especially if you're a beginner. But just know that we've been an up, down, up, down, up, down cycle. Okay, really not moving in any particular direction. But if I look at it and I expand this chart a bit, you can see that there's been some pip movement, pip activity. So what I see here is that there were equal lows down here on the daily, and then price came and took out these lows. Okay, and that's basically what happens. So we can see here in February, price pushed down below our point of interest, took out this previous low, and then started pushing up. And then when we began to form equal lows here, we started creating a zone of liquidity, and then price finally came and took out that liquidity, and now it's pushing up. Okay, so just purely looking at market structure and not necessarily anything else, we can technically see that EURNZD is pushing up. Okay, and then usually from the daily, I'll go to the 8 hour. I recently introduced the 8 hour because I saw that it kind of gives me a nicer look. Okay, so right now what I'm seeing on the 8 hour is kind of like we are on a zone of another point of interest here. I may consider that, we may bounce off this zone, okay, and possibly push lower. So if I go, so usually from the 8 hour, I'll probably look at the 1 hour. And what I'm seeing is, if I even look at it in terms of my, what is it called? In terms of my take profit here on the so lower time frame, okay, well, based on the trade that we took, we can see that we are in a resistance zone, and we can see that there was a bit of a rejection here. So for me, why I looked at it as a potential area of interest is because when price pushed down, like this is the date of 23rd August, when it pushed down, it formed, there was a swing high here that formed, and then there was a swing low, and then we formed a lower high here vis-a-vis this swing high, and we just kept on forming lower highs, lower highs. So what happened is, when price pushed up, you see this first time when it formed this base here, this was a significant low, okay, because this is when price for a couple of hours pushed back into this zone, okay, and I can extend this out like this, and we can see again point of interest, okay. So price pushed back in and then rejected, and when it rejected, what we see is it kind of formed an interesting level here, okay, and once we see price coming back here, my assumption is price is going to actually bounce off of here. Okay, so you can actually check your charts later on and see if price does indeed bounce off this level. But what I'm also seeing is zones of liquidity that may be forming up here, where price might be interested to actually just push through. But for now, I think that we've actually reached a point of interest, and price may begin to taper off in terms of the bullish move to the upside. But if I'm to look at it from, let's say, I want to look at price, I don't want to go too far, so because I want to keep this short. So let me just look at it from, let's say, of course, this is all in hindsight. So hindsight always looks easier. Okay, so but let me just show you what I would do. So going back to the weekly, right? Going back to the weekly, we are seeing prices pushing lower, okay, and we get to an interesting level here. What has happened is there were levels of liquidity here. So this price took out these levels of liquidity and then began to push up. So I'm looking at it and thinking, because again, history, we've been unable to break down these lower levels. In fact, right now, if I look at it, I would be anticipating that we might want to take out these lower areas of interest, okay, these equal lows. That's what, if I was looking at this chart brand new, I'd be like, okay, price is pushing down, retested, and it's actually now beginning to push lower. So what I'll do is just wait and see what happens, okay? And as we look at it, we see that price begins to push up. So thereby, we are probably not yet fully ready to push down, right? So that being said, I would go like again on the daily, we are bullish. I'm looking at these equal levels of structure here, and I'm looking at price actually pushing right past that. And then I go to the 8-hour. We find an interesting zone here where price may linger for a while before it pushes up. But my point of interest is that price will want to take out this, this high here at some point. So whether it happens now or later, it will happen, okay? Because if you look at history, these equal highs that formed here, price at some point came and took them out and then began to drop. And then as it was dropping, what was happening? It took out this level of structure. So if I'm to draw my trend line for you guys just to see so that this makes a bit more sense, we are seeing price has pushed up, right? And then price has taken out these equal highs. And then it pushed down. And as it pushed down, if you're looking at it from the retail perspective of things, we are forming equal lows below here. What we see is price pushed below the equal lows. Okay. In fact, there were other lows that formed here, then price pushed down, and then it pushed back up. Okay. So what keeps happening is, what you need to remember is every time price breaks structure, it's doing something. It's either taking out a level, either on the upside or the downside. So that's the story that you're telling yourself of price action or the market structure. It's breaking, and then it's moving from one level of structure to another, to another, to another, okay, depending on the direction. And right now, like we said, we are just in a very, we've been in a very consolidating market with EURNZD, not really, we can't really say that we've been bullish or bearish. We've been more so, especially on the higher time frame, consolidating. But obviously, when you go on the lower time frame, then you begin to see the moves, because then the price action becomes a bit more clearer. So there is a level of structure that has been taken out by this push lower, and then it formed another level of structure here. And then we see price again took out this level of structure before beginning to push up. So right now, my anticipation is that price will reject off of this zone and then possibly push down a bit and then continue to the upside and possibly take out these lows. But now what I want to, these highs. But what I want to do is, at this point in time, I want to go on the 1 hour, okay? Because now we're in real time. And as you can see, we are rejecting off of this zone, okay? So it's what I already said. And this is based off, when I look at my 8-hour, we were in an interesting level of structure where price initially broke off. There was a break of structure to the downside. The last bearish candle here, the last bullish candle here formed an important area of interest that price will revisit. And when it does revisit, you will see something like this. You will see a perfect rejection. So in this sense, if I was to just so that you guys can see what I'm looking at, and I just mark it out here, we are seeing price pushed up and then broke out, okay? So this last bearish, bullish candle forms an area of interest. And we see that price came back here, up here, and immediately it came back here, almost now getting to my 57 pip take profit on my 5-minute time frame. We see a rejection, okay? A rejection of about already 9 pips, okay? So you could have easily waited for this rejection to happen. And we can wait and see how much further this rejection will be. But just know that this is a point of interest, okay? Whether it's in the short term or the long term. Now, that being said, we go on the 1 hour, for example, okay? And on the hourly, we are looking and saying, okay, fine, maybe there's a rejection there. Where would I be thinking price would want to reject to, okay? So remember when price pushed up, okay, price pushed up, those are low here, those are high, then those are low, then those are higher high, those are higher low, higher high, then there's an equal low that kind of formed here. Okay, this is on the 1 hour. So when this equal lows formed here, I'm looking at this as a rally and kind of like a base or a consolidation and a continuation to the upside. So let's say, for example, okay, I was looking at this from this perspective, and I really don't know what's going to happen. What I'm seeing is that price pushed up aggressively. These are consecutive bullish candles. And then what I see is there was a bit of a rejection at some point and price formed. So if I'm to mark out my chart, we have a swing low. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it here. There's a swing low here. So this swing low or this high here, swing high here, this swing low is responsible for this swing high. Now, when price, remember we are on the 1 hour. So if I go on a lower time frame, these are consecutive candles, multiple consecutive candles, right? So we find that there was a rejection. So this is a swing low. Sorry, guys. Swing low, and then this is a swing high. Let me just mark that out. And then price pushes down and forms another low here, but this low is higher than this low. So I can just, let's say, put my lower high. It's actually a higher low. Remember, when you're on an uptrend, you're looking at higher highs and higher lows to signify an uptrend, right? Okay, so we've seen that happen. So when that happened, yeah, we then pushed up again and formed a higher high. Okay, so I'll just put that as a higher high. In fact, what I'll do is I'll mark this as a higher high because it's higher high vis-a-vis the swing low. It's a high high vis-a-vis the swing low. So swing low to the high, to the high, to the high, and then rejected off and formed a low. Okay, but this low is higher than this low. So this is a higher low, and then we rejected and formed a higher high vis-a-vis this high here, right? So then we rejected and formed a higher low. So I'll just come and be like, cool. This is another higher low. And so on and so forth. So now the question is, where is my price really shifting up to? Okay. What we are seeing is that when this started happening, we started seeing a bit of a consolidation happening here. So let me just play it so that I can see that play out a bit better. Okay. So what I'm seeing is there was a bit of a sideways thing that happened here. Okay. Before this, and as we were forming that sideways range, okay, price was beginning to shift up. So now I look at, if I want to consider, okay, do I take a buy or a sell? Right now, we know on the higher time period, on the weekly, we are bullish, on the daily, we are bullish, on the 8 hour, we are bullish. So I would not be looking for any other trade other than a buy trade. Okay. Why? Because we want to trade with a trend. We don't want to trade against the trend. Trading against the trend is almost like you're fighting with the market, unless now you're really on a lower time frame and there's a wide berth for you to actually take a counter trend. It's okay. But why am I doing that when I know that? First of all, if I take my fib and I draw it from my swing low to my swing high, okay, this is possibly going to continue to push up. Okay, usually on the way price moves, just so that I can again explain this to you, especially if you're on my channel for the first time. Price will move up on an uptrend, and then it will move down, and then it will move up again. Okay. Now, if I was to take my fib tool from a swing low to the swing high, and I want to know where to take the retrace, the continuation of this trend, where to enter for a continuation of this trend, I would enter on the 61.8. In my case, I have rounded it off to 62%, okay, or the 0.62 level, or the 0.618 level. So you can see that price actually rejected off of this level perfectly. Now, in an imperfect scenario where there's a strong impulse move to the upside, many consecutive candles, okay? Sometimes you'll find that the retracement is shallow, and then price that just pushes up, okay? In such a scenario, if I was to take my fib from the swing low to the swing high, and I'm waiting for a retracement, it won't happen. Price will just move up and you'll miss this trade. So usually, there are two ways in which I take these setups. There's the first one, the normal scenario where price is just moving up gradually and down. And then there's where there's huge momentum, huge volume candles, and we are really impulsing to the upside. I'll just take my trade at this level. So that's basically the difference in how I decide. And then I'll put my first take profit at the -1 or the 100%. And then if it's Normal trade, I would put it on the 62% and then take my take profit around there, right? That's what I would do. So this would be a normal scenario. This would be an aggressive impulse move. And then where I'd put my stop loss would be below, in this aggressive would be below the previous low. So about that 7 pips. That 7 pips, that 6 pips, and I'm gunning for 115 pips, not bad, right? In this scenario, I would put my entry on the 61.618 on the fib, and then I'd put my stop loss at the 1 level of 100%, depending on how you edited your two. So that's about 44 pips, but I'm gunning for 197. So my risk to reward here is 4.43 in this scenario, and my risk to reward here is 3.16. So not bad because it's above 2, right? Now, that being said, in this scenario here, what do? I'm looking at aggressive candles going up, and then we are seeing kind of a base forming here. So usually this is a significant example. This is an example of a shallow retrace happening. It didn't come all the way to the 618. So all I'll do is, instead of waiting for it to come to the 618, I'll just jump in here, right? And then I'll put my take profit at the 1 level. Okay, now bearing in mind, we have an interesting point of interest that we identified earlier. So I would put my first take profit here and then my second take profit here. So the first take profit from this exit here, let me just clear this so that my chart is a bit less noisy. Okay, my first entry would be here. So this would be my EP. And remember, I'm looking at a higher time frame. So we can dial it down to a lower time frame. So higher time frame, this is my entry price level, okay? And then because remember, we looked at the 8-hour and we saw the point of interest. I don't like to call it a resistance anymore. It's just a point of interest because all these are resistance, but price did not stop here. But this for me is the important point of interest, or the important high that I'm interested in. And so I would then, wait for price to get to this zone, and then I'll put my first TP1 here at the first point of interest, and then if it does continue, I'll put TP2 up here, okay? But we do know that there'll be a bit of a rejection before that TP2 is arrived at, which is fine, okay? So I'll put my TP2 up here. Now, again, this is in hindsight, so yes, it looks easier, but I can tell you for sure. So let's play this out. So what do we see happen there? And this is where you have to be patient, because what you see, let's just stop there for now. I can show you something. You see where my TP is, my stop loss, it was below the previous low here. Okay, so ideally that's where it should be, below this previous low. Now that's about 46 pips, yes. Now price actually started coming towards my stop loss. So what you need to do as a trader is to learn to be patient and just trust your analysis. So for me, I wasn't panicking because I'm like, whatever, even if it does hit my stop loss, I know that this thing is still headed up. I can re-enter the trade again and recover the pips that I lost. So in this sense, we have pushed up from this zone. And this is this TP1 is about 80 pips. So you can call it a day on EURNZD for that, because that's where we are at. We've actually hit more than 80 pips. So if we were entering from this point in time, we got to 97 pips from this break of structure. So just using the fib alone, okay, and looking at market structure, understanding that price, okay, anytime it's pushing up, it forms a point of interest, okay? So we have this first one, and then this one here where the higher lows are, okay? I marked it out wrongly. This was actually a higher low, not a higher high, so a higher low. And you find that we are still forming higher lows, right? We are still forming higher lows. Before now, we finally broke structure. Okay, so this higher low here, pushing to the upside, someone would come and draw a trend line here and, you know, say this is like a triangle pattern forming. It's really, you know, it's really up to you how you look at it. Equal highs up here, and you're forming like as an ascending triangle. Even if you don't draw those trend lines, okay, just following the premise of higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows signifies an uptrend. And where we are forming, we are following, our rally is followed by a very strong rally and a base. We know that price is going to push up. So this is a rally, base, rally. The opposite is true. Where you will see a rally to the downside, a drop to the downside, and then a shallow retrace and aggressive drop. So what you find here, if you look at it clearly, you're seeing that price pushed down and then hit a base here or a floor, what you call a support, and then bounced off and then continue to the downside. Now, if I was to take my fib here and try and consider, will this thing retrace back here? No, it doesn't. This is a very shallow retrace. It's way below the 50%. So what you would do in such a shallow retrace, you just want to take a continuation pattern and you just put your entry there, then you put your take profit there, and then you put your stop loss just above the previous low where price was leaving. That's about 44 pips, and you'll find that it actually respects this. Now, what I'll suggest is don't take my word for it. Practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it as much as you can. And that's that for now. So we are now here at the 1 hour, and you're trying to consider, and you can see there's a rejection. If I go on a lower time frame, you can see this rejection even better. Okay, you can see this rejection even better. Okay, so we are seeing that price has retraced. So now the question is, do you consider pushing up to your target or even higher according to the fib tool that you had put earlier? Okay, right now as we speak, for me, I'm looking and I'm thinking, okay, we got 47 pips now, we have retraced back to about 30 pips. You can put your stop loss into profit so that now you secure your profit and don't find yourself, you know, retracing back. But the only time I will consider a drop, okay, or a reversal is if, so let me draw this out here. So this was a swing low here. And then let's say this was a swing high. This is a swing high. My structure here has not yet, you know, price has not yet pushed down to this zone. So, I mean, I'm still biased for the buy, but forget the fib for now because the fib, that's not how I want to use the fib in this scenario. I only like to use the fib when there's a trending market and it, you know, you can see the push up clearly. But what we are seeing at this point in time on the 5 minutes, because I like to enter my trades from the 1 hour, after I've done my top-down analysis from the weekly, I like to enter my trades on the 5 minutes, okay? So on the 5 minute scenario, we see price pushing up, pushing up, pushing up, and then finally it kind of rejects at this zone and then pushes down. Now, the question is, will price continue to push lower? If we see that rejection lower, okay, then I'll only be considering a break of structure if we break this level here, okay? If we go past this rejection here, like I'll want price to push down, okay? And then possibly go back into that zone. And then when I see price continue to the downside, I'll probably take my sell trade around here, okay? And obviously, I'll also be looking for some price action up here, maybe a bearish engulfing candle. But for now, what we are seeing is price still looks like it is forming higher lows, okay? So I'm expecting that maybe the price will actually push to the upside. Why? Because we still have some areas of interest when I go on a higher time frame, much higher. So for me, there's some equal highs up here that would interest price getting to that level. So that's where I would probably be looking at really calling it a day on this trade. But for now, we are still bullish on this. Unless something changes, we are still bullish on EURNZD. So I really hope this recording or video has enabled you to kind of understand how to just do a top-down analysis and using market structure, just looking at, you know, how price is moving up and down, up and down, up and down, what story it is telling you, okay? Like when price pushed up from this swing low to this swing high, we had a really nice retracement. Actually, the swing low that caused this swing high was this one. So this was a swing low that caused this swing high up here. And what we see is price came and pushed down nicely back into this level of structure and then bounced off of it, okay? So you could have entered early at this zone, okay, if you had caught the trade in time when it was tracing, and you'd have actually been in this trade all the way to the top, okay? You'd have been riding this trade because even as we look at it right now, the 100% level is just slightly below our point of interest. So if you took that out, you would have gone all the way and have bagged about 200 pips, okay? So excuse the messiness on my chart, but I hope this simple example, you know, because I don't like messy charts at all. I like a clean chart, as you saw earlier. I just drew all these things so that you guys can understand. And I know obviously sometimes if you're coming from the retail perspective of support and resistance, sometimes you want to draw out all these lines, but you really don't have to. You really just have to be able to look at the market and tell yourself, okay, what is happening? What is really happening? Okay. And the top-down analysis will be able to show you that because like we said, looking at the higher time frame, you can tell the story. Okay. You can tell the story of what's happening. And that's that. So thank you guys. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, smash that like button. If you want to be alerted anytime I post a new video, just get onto that notification bell. And yes, if you know somebody else would find some value from my channel, please share with them. Post your comments as well. Let me know what other content you want me to post in terms of trading, or what you want, you know, if there's an area that you're having difficulty in, just post it in the comment section and I can cover it in a future video. Thank you guys and see you soon.